there is a sefer, very interesting sefer called Halach B'Amitecha. It's a Shulchan Aruch for travelers. It was written by Rav Bashal Stern, who was the Rav in Australia, and many of his kihila, many of his congregants were traveling because they're in Australia. They were traveling abroad, and he put it together a Shulchan Aruch for people who are traveling. It's called the Halach B'Amitecha. And I once had to get hold of the sefer for one of the projects I was working on, and I saw something there really fascinating, which is connected with this week's parsha, which I want to share with you today here at the Coastal. And that is that he cites from the Ber Heitev, which is one of the commentaries on Shulchan Aruch. It's generally the Ber Heitev is a composite of the Magen Avraham and the Taz, or the Shach and the Taz, depending on which area of Shulchan Aruch it is. He generally just cites the standard commentaries on the page, but in one instance, few instances, he goes off and he says things on his own, and he cites here a source, and I have to find the exact source where this is. He cites a source which, before you travel abroad, then you must say, or you should, it's highly recommended to say Parshas Vayishlach from the beginning until the end of Yaakov's encounter with Esav. And he says there that if you don't say this, then you won't have true success. But if you do say this, you'll have true success. And the deeper meaning behind this halacha, I believe, is as follows, is that as Jewish people in the world, we have to know how to interact with our blood relatives, Esav and Edom, and the proper hanhaga, the proper way to do this. And the parsha, this week's parsha, outlines that. The interaction between Yaakov and Esav is a prototype, as it were, for how to go about doing this. We have the famous Chazal, which is brought in the beginning of Bereshis, which talks about the story of the sun and the moon. They were the same size, and the moon said, "I want to be king. You can't have two kings wearing one crown, and I want to be the king." So what did Hashem do? Hashem shrunk the moon, but as a consolation, he gave the moon the constellations, the stars. So this is a very puzzling Gemara, because usually we don't hear the sun and moon speaking to each other, even though the Rambam does write in Mada that the sun and the moon are animate entities and they're living entities. But what's going on here in this conversation with sun and moon? And the Rajba, in his commentary on the Agadas, he explains that the sun is the nations of the world, and the moon is the Jewish people. And just as the moon waxes and wanes, it's constantly going up and down. The Jewish people have their ups and their downs and their rise and their fall. And the major point here is that the Jewish people can't have full honor in this world. We have to know we're not going to be the limelight here. We're not going to be in the receiving great honor in this world, even though it's true that when you look at the Nobel Prize winners and the top in any area, often it's Jews, but as a nation, we're not going to receive honor. And this is really one of the themes of the parsha. And I really believe this is a major theme that the halacha is coming to teach us here, that we're supposed to get. And it's by Motzi Shabbos, actually. Motzi Shabbos before you travel. Motzi Shabbos before you travel. It's recommended to say this parsha. If you want to know where this is brought, write to me at dytravis613@gmail.com and I'll look it up for you. But it's really a critical lesson that we have to instill in our minds and our hearts before we travel, is to know that to lay low and not to stand out too much. Now, that's not to say that we can't put tefillin on when we're in the airport, even though it might be a little bit strange. People might look at us. And one time a woman came up to me and she said, "Excuse me, sir, can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "Why are you putting black boxes on your arm and your head?" So I was in one of my moods. I told her, I said, "Ma'am, do you learn the Bible?" She said, "Yes." I said, have you ever come across the word phylacteries? She said, yes. I said, these are phylacteries. Yeah. And she almost fainted. She said, oh, she took a picture. She said, can I put you on my Facebook page? We're supposed to do mitzvahs in public. The Ramban says that this is how we publicize Hashem's honor, the Jewish people, like davening and etc. But we're meant to lay low. We're meant to not be seeking honor in this world and lay low. And when we're traveling, we have to instill that in our mind, keep in our mind, and realize that um, even though we're the chosen people, but our job is not to be on the forefront in the physical world. Our job is to be the forefront in the spiritual world and to maintain a low profile when we are traveling in Chutz La'aretz. So this is something really good to keep in mind and to say those psukim on Shabbos right after davening. If you have the Siddur of Rabbi Yaakov Emden, the base Yaakov Siddur, it's even brought there. You can look it up there at the end. It's brought there. And if you happen to be traveling, actually, it would be last Motzei Shabbos. You could have maybe doubled it up with learning the Parsha, but it's too late for that now. Um, but the point is that remember this. Remember what Chazal tell us, that as you're traveling, to keep a low profile, right? Number one. Number two, remember the sun and the moon, that we are the moon, and we're currently in a reduced state. But as we say every time we say Kiddush Levana, we ask Hashem for the days to come, that the sun and the moon will be the same size, and that we will return to our original glory of the Jewish people. And this is our goal. Our goal is to be a light unto the nations and to be given the proper honor and respect. We say that many times in our tefillas of Yom Niroyim, right? The same kavod. We ask for honor. And we don't want honor because we want to feel good about ourselves, right? Even though that's not such a bad thing to feel good about yourself. We want honor because we want Hashem's glory. We want to publicize Hashem's glory in this world. And our current state, this is what Yaakov is teaching us, is to do this in a state of great humility, is to humble ourselves before our relatives of Esav and Yishmael. This is our current state. And the more we keep that in mind, the more we realize that the proper way in this situation is not to be at the forefront, the more successful we're going to be. So let's all try to internalize this and fulfill this halacha. It's not actually halacha, it's a minhag. You can't call it halacha. Many people don't do it. But why don't you try it out? The next time you're traveling, Motzei Shabbos, you're going to travel that week. So say the Parsha Vayishlach from the beginning until, I think it's right, the pasuk about Sukkos, they made Sukkos, Yaakov made Sukkos, and see how it goes, and see if you can keep this thought within your mind and your heart during your traveling. And I'm quite sure, at least I can attest for myself, that this will have a major impact on your trip. Hashem should give us great siyata shmaya, and everything we do and everywhere we go. Amen. Kain Ratzon.